Hi folks, Steve from the Pistol Place here with another replica review, and this time it's the aTokyo Marui Hi Capa Dual Custom Stainless. It's a replica of a 1911 style pistol with a wider grip to accommodate a double stack high capacity magazine. As far as I know, it isn't a replica of a particular firearm, but it does look like a number of high capacity 1911s. Like most Tokyo Marui replicas, this has a plastic slide, but this one has a metal frame, which in my experience is unusual for Tokyo Marui. That gives it a very good weight of about 850 grams, though like a lot of replicas, quite a lot of that weight comes from the large metal magazine. It's nicely finished. It does just what you'd expect a 1911 to do. It has a very nice single action trigger. It's light, it's precise, no creep, just what you want. It has an ambidextrous manual safety. It also has a working grip safety so that the trigger can't be pulled unless this grip safety is pushed in, which when you're holding the pistol normally it is. Pretty much like the original. The magazine release and the slide release work exactly as you'd expect. This review is a little bit different to usual because I have now owned this replica for several years. So it's both a long-term review of this replica. It's also a look at some upgrades that I've applied to the replica and how they've worked and how they've affected the way that it shoots. This is a pretty good replica out of the box. It's fairly accurate. It's very reliable. You get 60 to 70 shots per fill. So why would you want to upgrade it anyway? For me, the main reason was that it felt rather underpowered. Chronographing it with 0.2 gram BBs, it was very consistent at about 220 feet per second. Although it's described as high kick, I thought the recoil effect was quite disappointing. It was quite quiet. There wasn't much kick when you pulled the trigger. So I was interested in seeing what could be done in terms of upgrading. Like most people who are thinking about upgrading, I was concerned about not doing anything that would cause long-term damage to this replica. I was very lucky because I was able to speak to a gentleman called Mike Cripps in the UK. Mike's a former UK pistol shooting champion who, like many people in that country, switched to airsoft when firearms law there changed in 1997. Mike started his own business, Elite Shooting Centre, selling only upgrades for Tokyo Marui Hi Capa replicas. So he's a man who knows a thing or two about upgrading these. I explained to him what I wanted and that I wanted to avoid causing the damage or wear. And what he suggested to me was that I do some fairly simple upgrades that are a straight replacement for stock. The first one was the trigger spring, which lives inside the grip at the rear. It's quite easy to remove. You drift out this pin at the bottom of the grip and then you can slide out this part which gives you access to the trigger spring. Following his advice, I fitted a 120% trigger spring, and what that does is it means the hammer is striking harder every time that you pull the trigger, which releases more gas, which hopefully produces more power. Now, in order to deal with that extra gas pressure, the other thing that Mike suggested that I replace is the transfer chamber in the rear of the slide. Quite easy to remove. There's just a hex screw in the end there that you move, then you can take out this transfer box. That's purely to deal with the higher pressure. The other thing that he suggested was a higher power recoil spring. If you're running higher gas pressures in these replicas, then it's possible that you can damage the slide because it's moving so much faster because of the higher gas pressure. So the recoil spring helps to damp that down and hopefully prevents damage to the slide. I've seen people who have said they've had split slides on these replicas where they've been upgraded to run green gas, that the notch for the slide, the notch for the slide lock can wear. I certainly haven't experienced any of those problems. And of course the main point of my doing that was to see if I could get it to produce more power. As I say, when I bought this it was very consistent at around 220 feet per second. Let's take a quick look at how it works after those three upgrades. That's the trigger spring, the hammer spring, the recoil spring and the new transfer box. Okay, as you can see, this is now shooting over 300 feet per second, which is a big improvement over the original. Of course, I'm now using green gas, where I was originally using HFC 134, which is what Tokyo Marui replicas are designed for. And the green gas works at a higher pressure, but these upgrades certainly seem to have boosted the power further than I expected. It feels quite different to shoot now. The kick in particular is much stronger, to the point that this is one of the strongest kicking replicas that I own. It's louder, and of course the BBs are hitting the target with much more authority. Now Mike also suggested that I fit the tight bore barrel and an upgraded hop-up bucking, which I did. However, after doing a fair amount of testing, I discovered to my surprise that I get smaller and more consistent groups using the original inner barrel and the original hop-up bucking. Now fortunately it shot fairly well with them anyway, and with the extra power it's still just as good. So let's take a look at how it actually shoots at 6 meters. Okay, as you can see, this replica shoots very nicely, though to be fair, it shot very well in its original form as well, and because I'm still using the original hop-up bucking and barrel, that hasn't really changed. I'm not sure why the tight bore barrel and the heavier bucking didn't make it even more accurate, but I'm still happy with what it's doing, and the extra power is noticeable. Are there any downsides? Well, yes, of course. The main one is that it now uses a lot more gas than it used to. As it originally came, using HFC 134 before I fitted the upgrades, I could get 60 to 70 shots per fill, which is really very good. Now I get 35 to 40 shots per fill. I don't mind that. I think the trade-off is worth it for the increased power and the improved feel when you're shooting, but obviously that may be an issue for you. Okay, has my Tokyo Marui been reliable since it was upgraded? I've owned it for around 5 years and I've been running green gassing using the upgrades for around 4. And I'd have to say that it's showing no signs of wear whatever, internally, externally. It still shoots exactly as it did. I can't see that these upgrades have caused any problems. In that time I've only had one very minor problem with this, and that was a slow leak from the base of the magazine. All I had to do to fix it was to tighten up this crosshead screw in the base that holds the base onto the body of the magazine. So really not a big issue. I have no idea whether that was related to the fact I'm using grain gas rather than HFC 134, but it only happened once, it was easily fixed, and it hasn't recurred. Apart from this, that minor issue, this has been completely reliable. I would assume you could do the same upgrades to any Tokyo Marui Hi Capa replica. And those 3 upgrades, that is the 120% hammer spring, 120% recoil spring in the slide, and the upgraded transfer box, are not expensive or difficult to fit, and they do make a big difference in terms of power. I'm sure you might also find that a tight bore barrel and a different hop-up bucking might improve accuracy for you, although it didn't for me. So if you are thinking about upgrading your Tokyo Marui Hi Capa, all I can say is that for me, upgrading this way hasn't caused any problems. Obviously your experience may be different, but I think if you do things carefully and if you make sure that you do, if you fit a more powerful hammer spring, that you also upgrade the transfer box and the recoil spring, then hopefully what you should end up is a more powerful, harder kicking replica without causing any undue wear or damage.